In the first lecture, we have studied about the general introduction and some characters of phylum Cnidaria. In the second lecture today, we will study about the body forms, the polyp and the medusa form. What are the difference between two body forms found in Cnidaria? If you see, below is a diagram given of polyp and medusa. If you see the differences in the diagram, see the orientation of tentacles in polyp and see the orientation of tentacles in medusa. If you see a polyp, the body is tube-like. For example, is hydra. The body is tube-like. And if you see medusa, the body is umbrella shaped or bowl-like. So if you see the description, polyp has a tubular body with a mouth surrounded by tentacles at one end. The other end is blind. We have seen that the other, it's a blind side body plan. So the other end is blind and usually attached by a petal disc to the substratum. So polyp, they are usually sessile. That is, they are found attached to the substratum. Polyps are typically sessile. Polyps are concerned with feeding, protection and asexual. This is important, that polyps are concerned with feeding, protection and asexual reproduction. Now see here, hydra is a polyp and it reproduces sexually as well as asexually, because in hydra, in the life cycle of hydra, medusa form is not present. So if medusa is present in the life cycle, then the polyp reproduce asexually only. But if the medusa form is not present, as in hydra, life cycle of hydra, the polyp will reproduce asexually as well as sexually. For example, in Obelia, both the polyp and medusa form are present. So the polyp reproduces asexually to give rise to medusa, and the medusa produces gametes which reproduces sexually to form the polyp again. So we come to the description of medusa. Medusa has a bowl or umbrella shaped body with marginal tentacles. The mouth is centrally located in a projection called manubrium on the ventral concave surface. Medusa are generally motile. See, polyp, they were sessile. Medusa are generally motile and they are concerned with sexual reproduction. Again, the medusa will reproduce sexually if polyp form is present in the life cycle. If polyp form is absent, as in the life cycle of jellyfish or Aurelia, medusa will reproduce sexually as well as asexually. So these are the two body forms. In medusa, the nerve net is more developed in comparison to polyp, and the reason being medusa swims freely, so it needs a better control and coordination of the muscles for swimming. Polymorphism. Now this is a very important phenomena which is found in Cnidaria. Polymorphism. See, a single organism or an individual is termed as zooid. So there are many type of individuals or zooids in the colony. The occurrence of more than one type of structurally and functionally different individuals within a population or a colony is called as polymorphism. The class Hydrozoa. Class Hydrozoa includes examples like Obelia. So the class Hydrozoa of phylum Coelenterata includes a large number of colonial species that contain more than one form of individuals, which are called zooids. So we will see examples like Physalia. Physalia is a single colony and it has many different type of individuals in the same colony. Similarly, Obelia is a single colony and it has different type of individuals like gastrozoids, gonozoids and medusa in the colony. So they belong to the same species, but the individual or the zooids, they are structurally and functionally different. So this type of occurrence of individuals belonging to the same species present in the same colony but are structurally and functionally different is called as polymorphism. Now we will see some example of polymorphism. We have seen polyp and medusa. Now the polyp, they can be of different type on the basis of structure and function, and medusa can be of different type. If you see modifications of polyp, gastrozoids or feeding zooids. Gastrozoids or feeding zooids are typical polyp with a mouth and surrounding tentacles. So the main function of such zooids is nutrition, to catch food. So the word gastro is related to feeding. So that's why these are called as feeding zooids. They have a well-developed mouth and the tentacles with nematocyst. So they will sting the prey and bring it inside the cylindron through the oscular opening. Through the opening, dactylozoids. See, dactylozoids, they are protective zooids. So they are used for defense. So they do not need a mouth, but they have a long basal tentacle which is studded with nematocyst. Gonozoids, as the name gono is related to reproduction, so gonozoids are reproductive zooids that derive from polyp which produce sexual medusae or gonophores. Now modifications of medusa. Nectophore or nectocalyx. This is a swimming bell, is a medusa modified for sexual reproduction. So this is a simple medusa with a swimming bell like medusa which is undergoing sexual reproduction. Nematophore or float is a bladder like modified medusa filled with a mixture of gases and help the colony to float on the surface. Phyllozoid. Leaf. Phyllo is leaf. Phyllozoid or bract is a leaf-like zooid studded with nematocyst and serving to protect the colony. So this is, and see, if you see this diagram, this is a diagram of Physalia. In Physalia, you see the topmost sail or crest is having a pneumatophore. And we have seen modification of medusa, pneumatophore or float. It's a bladder-like modified medusa filled with mixture of gases and help the colony to float on the surface. Below the pneumatophore, we find smaller dactylozoids and larger dactylozoids. So protective polyps are dactylozoids and gastrozoids. The zooids with mouth which help in feeding are gastrozoids, and gonozoids. The polyps which help in reproduction are gonozoids. So in the next diagram we can see nectophores or nectocalyx, swimming bells modified for sexual reproduction. Now we'll see some example. Obelia colony shows polymorphism and it has three type of individuals. So when three type of individuals are present, the colony is called as trimorphic. Now in Obelia colony, when the colony is new, the colony is dimorphic. And when asexual reproduction starts in the colony and medusa are produced in the colony, so the colony becomes trimorphic. So the adult, well-grown Obelia colony is trimorphic. A newly formed Obelia colony is dimorphic. So if in question, if it is asked Obelia colony is, the answer is trimorphic. But if they ask a newly formed Obelia colony is? So the answer will be dimorphic because it's newly formed and the asexual reproduction has not yet started. So polymorphism. The life cycle of Obelia includes three distinct types of zooids. Now if you see in this diagram, there are three distinct types of zooids. The nutritive polyps, hydranth. Together they are called as gastrozoid. So hydra-like polyp structure which help in nutrition, the gastrozoid or the hydranths. The asexual reproductive polyps are blastostyle. If you see in this diagram, gonozoid. Gonozoid is having a structure called as blastocyte inside and it is covered by gonotheca. The blastostyle is called as the asexual reproductive polyp because it undergoes asexual reproduction and forms medusa. So blastostyle will give rise to medusa. And then the sexual reproductive polyps. If you see on blastostyle, there are small round structures, the medusa buds. So the medusa grows from blastostyle or the gonozoid. And medusa is the sexual form. So in Obelia colony, the gonozoid is the polyp form. It reproduces asexually to form the medusa. The medusa is the sexual form. It will come out from the aperture of gonozoid, swim freely in water, and will undergo sexual reproduction. So the colony is trimorphic, having two polyp forms and one medusa form. So initially the colony of Obelia is represented by only two forms, gastrozoid and blastozoids, and is called dimorphic. Later, when gonophores develop on blastozoids by the process of budding, that is the asexual reproduction, the colony is considered trimorphic and is represented by three kinds of zooids. Another important phenomena which is found only in cnidarians is metagenesis. See, metagenesis is sometimes referred as alternation of generation, but the correct term is metagenesis and it differs from alternation of generation because in alternation of generation there is a alternation between diploid and haploid form. But in metagenesis, the phenomena of alteration is between two diploid phases. Both the phases are diploid, the sexual and asexual. If you see polyp in this diagram, see polyp. Polyp will reproduce asexually to form medusa. The medusa will produce the egg and the medusa will produce the sperm. Fertilization will occur. So this is sexual reproduction. And after fertilization, a larva stage may be produced, the Ephyra or the planula larva, and they give rise to the polyp again. So if both phases are present in the polyp or medusa, example in Obelia. Obelia may we have seen that it had two polyp form. The polyp blastozoid reproduced asexually to form medusa and the medusa reproduced sexually to form polyp. Such type of alteration between two diploid phases is called as metagenesis. But question which is asked in exam is metagenesis is absent. So metagenesis is absent in forms where haploid and where either the life cycle is a polyp form only or the medusa form. Example in Hydra. So in Hydra, only polyp phase is present. So the polyp will reproduce asexually to form the polyp, and the polyp will produce the egg and sperm and will produce sexually to form the polyp. So both type of reproduction will be present, but metagenesis will be absent in such forms. Example in Hydra. Similarly, in jellyfishes, only medusa form is present. So medusa will reproduce asexually, and medusa will reproduce sexually also to produce medusa only. So metagenesis is absent in those forms in which only one body form is present. Example in Hydra, having only polyp form, jellyfish having only medusa form. Now, if you see metagenesis in Obelia, Obelia is a hydrozoan, and if you see the metagenesis here, see this is the Obelia colony. We have seen earlier that blastostyle is the gonozoid. So the blastostyle or the gonozoid will produce medusa by asexual reproduction. Medusa will come out from the aperture of gonozoid. Now the one medusa will produce the sperm and one medusa will produce the egg. Now medusa, they are hermaphrodites. They will produce both egg and sperm. But the maturation of egg and sperm is at different time. So the one medusa will release the egg and one medusa will release the sperm. Fertilization will occur and a larva may be formed like the planula larva. In some life cycle, ephyra larva may also be found, and in some life cycle the larva is absent. Example, in hydra there is no larva present in the life cycle. So from the planula larva again a branching colony will emerge, and in the new colony only blastostyle or the gonozoid and gastrozoid will be present, so it is dimorphic. Later when the blastostyle starts reproduction, asexual reproduction, then medusa is also formed. So this is called as metagenesis, alternation of polyp and medusa form in Obelia. Thanks.